Hi, my name is Chris Ebling, and I'm a graduate student at Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas. I'd like to spend the next few minutes talking with you about my personal approach to leadership. Over a 30-year career, I've been called to many leadership roles in many contexts, including commercial enterprises, nonprofit, and volunteer organizations. I've been an individual contributor, a coach, and mentor, led small teams, large organizations, and distributed organizations with a global presence. During that time, I've attended numerous internal leadership training classes, external leadership seminars, and collegiate-level leadership programs. But the leadership skills and experiences I've acquired over the years are not what I want to talk to you about today, because they no longer represent my leadership philosophy at this point in my life. My current approach to leadership is tied tightly to who I am, which, in turn, has been deeply impacted by the totality of my life experiences. So in order to understand my leadership approach today, you need to understand how I got to where I am. Don't worry, I'll keep it short. I was born in Detroit in the 1950s, when Detroit was at the pinnacle of its prestige and power. Over 2 million people called Detroit home, making it the 5th largest city in the nation. At the time, Detroit was a global industrial powerhouse and a major source of industrial and commercial manufactured goods, as well as raw materials processing. The economic engine behind the city was the automobile manufacturing industry. The high wages paid to the auto workers literally created the U.S. middle class. The high tax base enabled world-class public facilities, beautiful Art Deco architecture, museums, parks, sports teams, universities, and transportation infrastructure. Domestic automobile production peaked in 1972 at over 15 million vehicles. Then the city began to change. At first, it almost wasn't even noticeable, like a cold front drifting through that brings a slight chill to the body. The world started to catch up to America as Europe and Asia emerged from the devastation of war. Auto imports started to impact domestic car sales. Manufacturers employed automation on a major scale for the first time. This deterioration continued as major corporations liquidated and supporting industries collapsed. The pace of change accelerated into a downward spiral of hopelessness. Frustrated by job loss, ineffective social support and political systems, and unhealthy living conditions, the city erupted in the summer of 1967. The July riots sealed Detroit's fate. Today, Detroit is a city in ruin, defined by abandoned neighborhoods, collapsed infrastructure, horrific schools, and a breakdown in political, social, and community institutions. From a historic high of over 2 million residents, less than 1 million remain. In fact, today Detroit is the subject of a long-term study to document the deterioration of the urban landscape in the absence of people. Compounding the problems is large-scale contamination of soil and water resources after decades of lax environmental regulation and enforcement. At the same time, the civil rights and anti-war movements were tearing at the fabric of American society, while riots rocked the cities and the war raged on. Compounding the problem was the loss of leadership, as our leaders were taken from us one by one by one by one. And while society struggled with these issues, an even greater challenge remained on the horizon, as America had yet to consider the environmental consequences of unbridled capitalism. And yet hope was on the horizon in the form of an environmental manifesto written in 1962. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring would galvanize the nascent environmental movement and give it a voice. Even Detroit has reason for hope in the future. City government has refocused on a central core where budget meets need. Economic zones attract low-impact small businesses. Water resources improve as time passes. Billions of gallons of water from the Great Lakes flow by Detroit every year, and the Detroit River is a prime smallmouth bass sport fishery. Local initiatives are reclaiming and repurposing abandoned neighborhoods as urban farmscapes. So what have I learned from these experiences? Well, first I've learned that the good times never last, but it is also possible for the phoenix to rise from the ashes. Second, I've learned that we are all connected to each other in what I've come to think of as a global human meta-society. Everything we do, for good or ill, has an impact on those around us, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Finally, I've learned that environmental justice is a prerequisite for social justice. So in 1970, I was 17 years old. One warm summer day, I decided to attend an outdoor concert on the campus of Wayne State University downtown to hear one of my favorite local bands, the MC5. Little did I know that that decision would have a profound and lasting impact on my life. Just as a teaser, see if you can pick me out of the crowd. Okay, you get the idea. But did you see me? In case you want to go back and look, I was in the second row. But at one point during the concert, the lead singer came to the front of the stage and issued this challenge to the audience. All it takes is 5 seconds. 5 seconds of decision. And then he looked right at me and said, 5 seconds to decide if you were going to be part of the problem or if you were going to be part of the solution. That simple challenge was like a slap in the face to an impressionable 17-year-old. And ever since, in my own way, in my own little corner of the world, I've strived to be part of the solution. So now to the point of this conversation. How have these experiences framed my leadership philosophy today? Throughout most of my career, my leadership focus was on inspiring and directing groups and individuals to accomplish specific goals. Today, my leadership goals focus on inspiring others to improve their world. I apply my leadership activities in very specific ways. The first is to give back to the community that has supported me throughout the years. As a white male, I've been given all of the opportunities that the American system can provide. But in the words of Jesus, for everyone to whom much is given, from him much will be required. And to whom much has been committed, of him they will ask the more. As the elder leader of my church's mission committee, I strive to improve the lives of the poor by supporting local outreach efforts such as the Austin Street Shelter, the Bridge, the network of community ministries, and others. The second is to protect and preserve the environment in any way I can. In addition to mundane tasks such as recycling, I am working to protect the North Texas environment directly. My wife Karen and I own 160 acres in Fannin County that we are converting from overgrazed pasture to native grasslands. In partnership with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, Texas Parks and Wildlife, and Ducks Unlimited, we built 2 seasonal wetlands to support migratory waterfowl and associated wetland species. I also serve on the Land Committee of the Connemara Conservancy, a land trust focused on protecting critical habitats in North Texas. The third is to learn constantly. When I was young, learning involved acquiring a skill and then practicing that skill for the rest of your life. But the rate of technological and sociological change continues to accelerate at a geometric pace, meaning that learning has to be a continual process. Not only do we need to continue to absorb new information, but I've come to believe that sometimes it is necessary to unlearn old truths in the light of new information. Finally, I feel called to take my knowledge, skills, and passion to the larger community through education. My primary venue for educational outreach is through the Texas Master Naturalist Program, where I teach classes on forest ecology, forest management, dendrology, and entomology. In summary, my hope is that through my leadership activities I can inspire others to serve their communities, protect and preserve the environment, make learning a lifelong activity, and equip others to carry the message forward. But I've also come to realize that education is insufficient. While engaging people intellectually is foundational, education in and of itself does not inspire people to take action. For this to happen, we must touch people emotionally. The interpretive process provides a means to this end. Interpretation enables personal connections and meaning, which, in turn, provoke attitudinal and behavioral changes. And this is the source of my major skills gap. While I excel at providing facts and figures, I often fall short in inspiring others to action. To address this gap, I enrolled in an innovative program offered through Stephen F. Austin State University, designed to develop the interpretive discipline and practice within the broad interpretive community. At a minimum, this program will enhance my abilities in my leadership focus areas. My hope is that experience will equip me to pass on interpretive techniques to the next generation. Now, I don't hold any illusions as to my ability to effect large-scale change, and the problems we face often seem insurmountable. But when I become discouraged, I am reminded of the starfish story. One day a man was walking down a beach after a bad storm which had washed thousands of starfish up onto the shore. During the walk, the man came across a young boy who was picking up starfish one by one and throwing them back into the ocean. The man asked the boy why he was doing this and noted that his activity could not possibly make a difference. The boy thought about that for a moment, picked up another starfish and threw it back into the ocean and said, "I made a difference to that one." I am also reminded of the time when Mother Teresa was asked how she continued her work in the face of such human desperation and suffering. Her response was simple but profound. We ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. The key message behind these two stories is the need to act. We do not wait for others to step up while you stand on the sidelines. Do not wait for former leaders to tell you what to do. Take responsibility for your world directly. 33 years ago, a 17-year-old boy made a seemingly innocuous decision that would provide focus for the rest of his life. So how about you? All it takes is a decision. You have 5 seconds.